Psychological Disease presents Get a Little More Outta Life. Start your week with practical tips and expert advice to help you make the most of your personal health, relationships, fitness and nutrition. Letting go of relationships. The power of walking away. Walking away isn't easy, but it may be the best move you'll ever make. Guilt, shame and societal convention often convince us to stay well past a relationship's use-by date, something Sydney-based psychotherapist Julie Sweet sees at her private practice every day. People who find themselves stuck in such situations can develop a fear-based mentality, generalized anxiety, chronic depression and feelings of stress and isolation, she says. Acknowledging you're in a toxic relationship can be harder than it sounds, but it's imperative that once you recognize it and make plans to walk away that you do so when safe and with the support and guidance of a professional. Need inspiration? 3 women reveal what it took to make the break. If anything, this experience taught me how to set boundaries. Karen Stevens, a 50-year-old forensic healer and mentor for domestic violence victims, thought she and Alice would be best friends forever. Several years on, she's still regrouping from the end of the friendship. It probably isn't the most conventional way to make a new friend, but I first met Alice through an online support group started about a man who was a terrible love cheat. We were both on there to vent, of course, but we clicked in such a way that when we moved our friendship offline it felt like we had been close friends for most of our lives. She had integrity and liked to push boundaries and I respected that. No matter what was happening in our lives or how busy we were, we found time to call each other every single day. For a long time, I felt like I'd found my person, that one best friend everyone swears you'll have in your lifetime. And I assumed she felt the same about me, for a while, anyway. I say that because everything began to go pear-shaped when I started seeing a guy and Alice became very unhappy with the new arrangement, accusing me of having changed as a person and of having a nasty side to my personality. Her accusations floored me, but when I heard she'd begun gossiping about me, I realized our friendship was over. It was heartbreaking, yes, but trying to fix a relationship when the actions of the other are unforgivable is far worse. Sometimes you just need to know when to fold. Walking away from someone you once loved dearly is not the easiest decision to make, it takes a lot of strength and resolve. Once I made the disconnect and sorted feelings from facts, I had to work on myself and learn to see patterns I was falling into over and again. I've never been able to enjoy strong relationships with females and over time I began to see that my boundaries were not defined enough and that I tended to yield in times of pressure. Healing after letting go takes time, but I'm not sure that the other person ever leaves you. Love is love and that's a bitch to get rid of. But also, I'm a believer that every relationship you have, good or bad, has a purpose in your life. This friendship led the pathway to set my boundaries whenever I make new friends moving forward. As it happens, Alice did contact me again a couple of months ago and although the conversation was stilted and at times, charged with emotion, I hung up the phone knowing I would never speak to her again. It was the closure that I didn't know I'd needed. People say that you know when you find your person. I think you also know when you're done with them for good. Letting go of someone you loved is essential to rebuilding your life. When 43-year-old media advisor Zoe separated from her husband, Todd, she assumed relations would remain friendly for the sake of their children. It was only when things went south that Zoe realized a choice had to be made. My husband and I were married for 12 years before we separated in 2012, and by all accounts you couldn't have asked for a more amicable split. There was no third party or any ugliness involved, more of a slow realization that our marriage wasn't working. So we stayed friends and committed to putting our kids' health and happiness first. In fact, our relationship as exes worked out so well initially that he would even come and stay in the family home whenever he drove back to the country to see the kids. It was only after we'd both made respective homes with our new partners and his girlfriend started becoming involved in every aspect of his decision-making that everything fell apart, especially from a financial perspective. Non-essential communication between my ex and I ceased soon after. When you're both mourning the loss of a life you once wore. So hard to build, but also the death of the friendship that remained post-marriage, the stress is enough to be your undoing. The turning point for me came when I began to have panic attacks in 2018. The first one saw me arrive at the hospital with chest contractions and the second occurred while I was having a meeting with a client. I had to excuse myself just to go and lie on the bathroom floor so I could breathe it out. I realized then that my link to this man had become toxic, bleaching negativity into all areas of my life. And while I knew he always had to have some place in my life as the father of my children, I had to work quickly if I wanted to prevent it from affecting the new life I was trying to build. It was my doctor who recommended meditation as a way of taking my life back, but I must admit to being skeptical at first. Still, I felt like I was floundering and had nothing to lose. After searching online, I came across a meditation guy on YouTube by the name of Michael Seeley who did sleep hypnosis, and it's been the best thing I could have invested in. I didn't just leave it there. As my mood improved, I began to listen to podcasts on stress reduction, took up practicing deep breathing techniques, and started a gratitude journal where I write about 3 things I'm grateful for every day. When you're going through a major life change, it's astounding how the simplest things are often the most effective when it comes to changing your mindset. Letting go of a person, or an idea of a person, is never easy, but sometimes you have to take care of your own needs. Today, I feel like a changed person, but perhaps more importantly, a better version of the person I'd always hoped to be. Over time, I came to understand that blood means nothing. When Clea Rose Selly pressed sexual abuse charges against her father, she was shocked to find her mother and siblings sided with the perpetrator. Now 52 years old, the healer and health coach helps others locked in painful situations. I was only a toddler when my father began sexually abusing me. When I first spoke out, I was 5 years old, but my older sister, who I soon realized was also being abused, simply told me to fight back, and everyone else in the family, Selly has several older brothers, urged us to keep quiet about it. I know my brothers were scared because Dad was always threatening to shoot us all dead, but I'm not sure why Mum never did anything. She would keep me home from school and leave me with Dad while she went shopping until it was all over. It only changed at the age of 13, after I found the courage to tell a friend and her father visited me at school to say that if my father ever touched me again to tell him and he would kill him. That was the first time in my life someone showed they cared enough to protect me. Counseling, for me, was not what you'd call a success. I began seeing a therapist when I was 19 and at first it was good, but I soon stopped going when feelings of rage about my mother's actions took over everything else. She stood by him even after I publicly accused him of what he'd done to me and my sister, and I couldn't accept that. After an incident at their house, I realized that even though we'd all grown up and many of us were now married, some of us now had little boys and girls at risk of being abused by their granddad. So I made the decision at the age of 22 to speak publicly by going to see my local community police squad. I haven't stopped talking since. My father was jailed in 1992 for 24 months, 21 of them suspended so that he only served 3 months inside. That was disappointing enough, but what made things worse is that every member of my family cut me off for making our family business public. It hurt to not have their support, but at the same time, I came to understand that blood means nothing. Family is what you make it. I knew I had to find my own family elsewhere. When you walk away from your family, you feel as though you have no anchor. I knew I was doing the right thing, but that didn't stop me from feeling lonely and distraught for a long time. I even missed them. It was only after I became a mother and felt true love for the first time that everything clicked into place. So, this is what love between a parent and a child is supposed to feel like. Who knew? What no one ever really tells you about grief is that it isn't only reserved for those who die. Over time, I had to grieve the loss of my childhood, grieve for the loss of my parents and what they did to me, and grieve for the loss of my siblings, even though they're all still walking the earth. Rebuilding yourself can take work, but not doing the work can be your undoing. Through my work I see far too many people who are too stuck in their pain and in their past to learn from the lessons or them. My job now is to help them heal as I have healed. Thanks for watching.